I think that's the most challenging part about providing advice is the accountability and the ownership of the client, right? So even to your point, we could upload it and let's say the client can download their own tax report or start to create their own scenario analysis, right? But how do you actually instill ownership and accountability to really see the change in clients where they're actually implementing the advice? Because that's the most challenging aspect.
You are tuned into the Only Human podcast, where financial advisors learn how to stay irreplaceable in a world of AI. Only Human explores strategies for advisors to leverage their unique human edge and thrive alongside technology. I'll be back later with some important announcements. Until then, here's your host, behavioral financial advisor Yohance. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Only Human, brought to you by The Money Script. Yes, we did some rebranding. It's a little different, but it's still me. I'm still here with other advisors. I'm not going to say the name to the old show. You know what it was, but now it's Only Human, where we are going to discuss how you as an advisor can stay human, because you only are human, as you work with clients and as technology finds its way to weave into everything that we've done. This is nothing new. Speaking of nothing new, without any further ado, I would like to welcome my wonderful guest, wonderful friend, sister from another mother, Chelsea Ransom Cooper. Welcome to Only Human. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing amazing. Outside of it being super cold here in New Jersey, but I'm doing amazing. I'm feeling good kicking off the year.
Oh, yes. So, yes, no matter when you're listening to this, for us, we're just kicking off the year. And speaking of kicking off the year, hopefully by the time you're hearing this, all the fires are out in California.
Yes.
My heart, my money, my support goes to you all in California. If you need anything and you know me, please call me. I know I'm thousands of miles away, but money can be sent in an instant. Yes, hopefully y'all are okay. Man, that's been a lot. It just took me there to think about it. My sister's out there. She's sending me text messages. So if all of a sudden I have to stop in the middle of this because she's calling for advice, like yesterday when she said, I just got an evacuation notice, what do I do? And it's like, evacuate.
Yes.
But still, some people need that coaching. Okay.
Yeah.
She's a bit of a conspiracy theorist. She was like, how do I know this is real? Like, it's on fire.
Very real.
Like, well, where do I evacuate to? I said, south and west. Like, what's west? I said, water.
Right.
So that's about it. That's about it. So, so Chelsea and I, we met, many moons ago, probably at one of the conferences somewhere, I think at some point. We do this thing when we're at conferences. I'm just going to tell y'all because it's real. We say, hey, Black person, what's up?
Really?
Because there's just not a lot of us. We've grown. We're
We
growing.
have. We are growing.
And that is thanks to individuals like Chelsea. But we need more of you, because a lot of times, and again, this is not prejudice, this is not stereotype, this is just human. A lot of times people prefer to work with people that look like them. And that's okay. That is perfectly okay. If that's the comfort level that you need and that you seek. And also, unfortunately, sometimes advisors only want to work with people that look like them. And that's usually not as helpful. So there's that. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We are only human. Right. Well, actually, we are here to talk about that, because I was talking about being human. We are. So let's just kick it off. Chelsea, tell us a little bit about your experience in the field as a financial advisor. How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, so I assume you mean before you and I started hanging out at Future Proof together.
Future Proof, that's where we were. Oh, yeah. I should have worn my sweatshirt today. I should have done that. Missed opportunity.
Definitely. So born and raised in New Jersey through and through. I have a lot of New Jersey pride. I know New Jersey gets a lot of flack often, but I'm very proud of being from New Jersey. Grew up here. My mom is actually a fashion designer, still working as well. My father is a mortgage broker. So yes, I say I'm like the best of both worlds. I got the business mindedness from my father, I'm sure my mother wishes I got more fashion sense from her, but I'm working on it.
Yeah,
So
I mean, you can't keep up with those fashion people. They're always ahead of us. They're telling us what
light
colors
years.
we're wearing next year. I'm like, how do you
Oh,
know this?
100%. She's like, these are the colors for 2026. I was like, can
I
we
know,
stay
right?
here?
Like, wait a minute. I got to change my closet again. Oh,
Right.
okay.
But that was really a lot of my upbringing. I mainly lived with my mother though, so that was really where I was raised. And then I went to Syracuse University, studied finance, and then also studied information management, technology, web design, all of
Oh,
the
so
things.
you are uniquely qualified for our conversation today. Okay.
Yes.
Hmm.
That was really, and I thought I was going to go into financial planning and like helping people with their money. But when I went to start going to the career fairs to talk to people, there were only insurance companies there. And the immediate question was, well, do you have 10 people that you can immediately call and bring on as clients? And I was like, no, I want to like help people. Like I want to create plans and like budgets and strategies. And they're like, no, we sell insurance. So honestly, I thought, okay, well then this is all the industry does. So I ended up taking a job in public accounting, doing
Okay.
consulting and audit work. And I did not love it. I didn't love anything about it. But I kept thinking about personal finance. I read a lot of articles, I read a lot of books. And I realized I was like, this is actually bringing me more joy. And I started posting on LinkedIn like tips and advice. And my manager was like, Chelsea, what are you doing? Like, we do audit. Like, why do you keep posting about this stuff? Like, we don't do this here. And I
Why
was
are
like,
you
you're
trying to help
right.
people, Chelsea? Stop it.
Right. And I was like, you know what? You're right. We don't do this here. I need a new job. So I ended up going to the Financial Planning Association, met a ton of different advisors, but one really stuck out to me who was an independent RIA. And she was telling me about the work that she does and how she does comprehensive planning at these flat fees. And I was like, wait, I had no idea that was even an option. So I started to apply for roles at independent RIAs, and that was my first opportunity in the industry was at a $2 billion RIA. So they did portfolio management, but they noticed that when there was market volatility, they were losing clients. So they're like, we need to start hiring CFPs so that we have more planning to make the clients more sticky, if you will. So I was the second or third CFP that they brought on the team. So keep in mind, let me take a step back. You probably didn't hear it, but didn't come from a lot of conversations around money with my parents. This was my first opportunity getting into the industry. I immediately started my CFP, but it was like drinking from the fire hose, like trying to understand Medicare, Social Security, estate planning, all of these things. It was like a foreign language to me. I felt like I was truly learning another language at the same time. But I really stuck through it because I really wanted to understand how people were able to build and retain wealth, especially because I didn't come from that background. And I knew that one day, if I was able to learn from that, I could bring that back to the community that did inspire me to become a financial planner and advisor. So that was always my initial thought and strategy. So fast forward, I was there for about 4 years. And I always say 2020 like brought a lot of reflection for a lot of us. And I think I realized I was getting to a point where I could not continue to move forward at that company based on my age and also the fact that they did have a $2 million minimum at the time um, to bring on new clients. And again, I was in my 20s, didn't have a lot of natural relationships like that. So there was this ceiling as to how high I could go. At the same time, I actually met another person named Jason Ray through a mutual friend. And I was complaining about how frustrating it was and how I couldn't find any other people of color in New York who were going for their CFP and wanted to be financial advisors. And my friend Brian was like, you need to talk to Jason. He's based out of Philly, but you should connect with him. So Jason actually came
Shout out
to,
to Jason.
yeah, shout out Jason. He came to New York. We actually need to go and get brunch there again. But he came to New York. We had lunch. We sat down and he's like, Chelsea, I want to offer investment management without minimums. Like that is my vision. And I'm going to quit my job in the next few months and I'm going to do it. It's going to be called Zenith Solutions. And I was like, that is awesome, Jason. Let me know how it goes. And
I
he was
think there's more to this. I think you're bearing the lead here.
so fast forward. So Jason quit his job, started the company, and we always stayed in touch. started to share more ideas and some things that I was experiencing and learning in my own client relationships, especially since Jason was more on the portfolio management. And he was like, Chelsea, like these ideas are great. Like we should do this. But I think timing is really important. And I think I really wanted to make sure I exhausted everything possible out of that initial place that I was before I really made that leap. So then fast forward to 2020, as we were having one of our many check-ins, Jason and I connected and I was like, Jason, I think we could do something really great where if we don't have the minimums, but we're also leading with financial planning, we can provide a lot of really great advice because all the clients I was working with before were retirees. But I wanted to bring a lot of that great advice and bring them to pre-retirees and first generation wealth builders so that they could make really smart decisions on their wealth building journey. So we spent 6 months working together, figuring out what it would look like, came up with a new name, which is what we are called now, Zenith Wealth Partners, and rebranded and launched in September 2020. Since then, that has really been our mission and vision of what we've been trying to achieve. And yeah, that's pretty much my story up until today.
Beautiful. Hold 1 second. It's cold here too. I got a space heater up here. The thermostat is way by the door.
Yeah.
So it'll get, and I got a vent over my head. So
Yeah,
it'll
that's
get
too
really
far.
hot if the heat's on, and it's better just
Yeah,
use a space heater. So
that makes sense. I actually have one right next to me too.
okay. So all right, I'm not alone. I'm not alone. It's cold. We cold.
Yeah.
These African roots get cold. That is a beautiful introduction to your pathway into financial planning, and I'm excited to learn more about some of the pieces of your background, not so much in the industry, but more the college work that you talked about, and the studies in technology, in web design, as we think more about the technology that's involved with not only running an RIA, but the technology that's being bombarded to our clients on each and every day, and how we're incorporating those. So let's talk a bit about Zenith Wealth Partners. I got that right?
Yeah, you got it
Okay.
right.
Let's talk a little about Zenith Wealth Partners, because a lot of RIA, independent RIAs listen to the show, also advisors that are considering making the leap. And one of the biggest questions that I get around creating an RIA and making that leap out of a broker dealer is, what's my technology going to be? How do I do a financial plan? Who's my custodian? And how do I do asset allocation and risk tolerance and CRM? And the list goes on. And I've seen tech stacks that are 15 technologies deep. I've also seen those that have embodied them into one.
Yeah.
The Black Diamond, I think their name is, or the
Yeah.
Advisons of the world.
Mhm.
So can you talk to us a little about your approach to technology as an
Mhm.
RIA, and specifically how your previous education helped you kind of scope how to evolve your RIA through technology?
Yeah. So when it came to the technology, especially with my information management and technology minor, but also with some of the work I was doing in consulting, started to realize how important data was in regard to just education and just overall understanding. So as part of that minor, I really focused on like data visualization. So I used a tool called Tableau, which isn't necessarily used in our industry, but it was a way to take a popular term, which is like big data, huge spreadsheets of information, and consolidate it and visualize it into hundreds of different ways so that it was understandable for management to make the proper decisions. But that's actually very similar to what we do with our clients as well, right? Like we take all of their information that they provide to us, we put it in a right
See what
capital
you
or
did
right
there.
money, and and we make it aesthetically pleasing and very visual so that they can learn and digest it, since the majority or a lot of people are visual learners. So that was like the initial. I had to do a lot of that work originally when I was in college, but also when I was a consultant. So that was really kind of when I started to open my eyes. Similar to the web design, I'll be honest, that our first Zenith website was a lot of it was done by me and then a friend of mine. So I wish I still had some old screenshots. You would be like,
No, you
dang.
don't. No, you don't. Nobody wants to see that. Here's something funny I'll share with you about that though. And this
Yeah.
gets into my other podcast, but it gets into the behavioral components and these psychological components of having a website.
Mhm.
If you were to update your website 2 years from now, you would also look at the previous website and say, ew.
That's true.
So it's because we get anchored in what was,
Yeah.
anything that is, especially if we say, oh, we're paying a lot of money for this change, and we've talked to a consultant and they've told us about the above the fold, below the fold,
Yep.
call to action. Like, oh, I'm missing that, I'm missing this. So
Mhm.
every new iteration makes all the other ones look like trash. So, but when you first started, oh, you loved your website. I mean,
Oh, I thought it was great.
exactly.
I was like, "We're off to the races. This is a perfect explanation of what we do." And then
Yeah.
it wasn't until we did hire, like, a formal web designer to come in and ripped it to shreds and then kinda got it to where it is, but I think it's also just understanding and being happy with where you are right now. I've made
Sure.
peace with our website and understand what enough is now, so I'm not constantly
Yes.
trying to make a new website every
I'm
year, but
always looking at what can I get rid of? That's
yeah.
what I look at. What can I get rid of? Because throughout
Uh,
the year, I'll add things like, why is that there? Get that out. So
um,
I'm curious. You said Tableau is
yeah,
the tool that you use. I'm curious because Tableau is more of an internal tool. Is that right for you and your
yeah.
team?
So that was
Oh,
an internal tool that I used when I was, in school and then also doing consulting. But
okay.
I would say right now, especially with our team, when we're thinking about our tech stack, since I was at a prior firm, and then I had other friends in the industry, I did get to learn about how different technologies work. So I was really fortunate where I tested out eMoney and MoneyGuide Pro, and I even tested out like Holistiplan and Thomson Reuters tax software and all these different tools before we actually partnered to create Zenith. So I had a good handle of the tools that I really liked. But I'll be honest, in the beginning, there definitely was like this like imposter syndrome where it was like I felt like I needed all the technology to balance out the fact that I had my own insecurities around it. Where now I
Mm.
think feeling more confident to like release some of the ones where it's kind of just you don't necessarily need it. But we also do at the end of each year, we do surveys from our clients just to see like what was the most impactful experience, and they'll typically talk about our tech stack, which is Right Capital, Altruist, Schwab, Holistiplan. We use Encore Estate. We use Notion as our internal database. So these are, and then of course, Wealthbox. But some of the technology that I thought they would remember the most, like they didn't even remember. So it was just like little things like that where
Mm.
I started to realize, okay, it's not the technology, it really is the advice that matters more than anything. And just honing in on what will help me be a better and more efficient advisor, and not necessarily the shiny object all the time.
Well, then I need to beg your correction then, because you said it's not the technology, it's the advice. I would challenge you and say it's not even the advice, it's the advisor. Or as
Ah,
Michael Kitces likes to say, advisor.
yeah.
Um, he's making it a thing.
Yes.
So because we are the ones that are able to create that advice. But
Mhm,
again, back to this only human concept, a lot of our tools package the advice for us.
mhm.
You mentioned the Right Capitals of the world. You mentioned, what was another one that you mentioned? Has something.
Altruist,
The
a
Altruist,
Holistiplan,
the
yeah,
whole
or
Holistiplan.
Schwaz.
Let's go with the Holistiplan. That's a
Yeah,
great one. I plug a tax return into a Holistiplan. It analyzes it and it gives me advice.
mhm.
It does. And you know what? A client could actually do the same thing with a well-written GPT. They
They
could,
can. Yeah,
and get the same advice.
mhm. You're
Where's the human component there? How in a world where there are going to be more Holistiplan, didn't Holistiplan just merge with somebody or something?
Well, actually, now Right Capital just released at the beginning of this week
No,
that
that's what it was. Yes. Right
you
Capital
can
basically
upload
said,
now.
Holistiplan, we're about to put you in your grave. That's what happened. I
Yes.
knew it was something like because as I mentioned, anyone with a well-written GPT can recreate everything that Holistiplan is doing. As a matter of fact, Thomson Reuters have been doing it for years.
They have.
They need some marketing out there, Thomson Reuters. But anyways, um, so what do you think are the human components that are going to help the clients actually take action when they get this advice?
I think that's the most challenging part about providing advice is the accountability and the ownership of the client, right? So even to your point, we could upload it And let's say the client can download their own tax report or start to create their own scenario analysis, right? But how do you actually instill ownership and accountability to really see the change in clients where they're actually implementing the advice? Because that's the most challenging aspect. So I think that's where, yes, it's great that you can get the information, but how do you make it digestible? How do you make it an implementable action plan? And then providing that accountability, that safe space, and that empathy when you're having conversations. So even if they do have questions or they just want a sounding board, like that's really the value of the advisor, as you said.
I know that's what Michael said.
As Michael Kitts has said.
That's how I said.
Yeah.
It's still tough for me to say.
It
And
was
I read
a
it
little tough.
every time I see it. I read them like it's spelled wrong. Oh wait, no, that's the way he wants it. I'm gonna respect it. I'm making it a thing, Michael. I know you listen. So Chelsea, what would you say is out of your tech stack? Which is the one that you could not live without? I feel like doing a no, that's not appropriate. The whole marry, kill, and I remember what the last one was. But
It should be like marry, kill, I don't know, date. I don't know.
divorce.
Divorce.
Date.
Divorce. Yeah.
Marry, kill, date. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do
Yeah.
it. This is the first time. Brand new podcast. Let's go.
Yes.
We're going to do marry, kill, date. Oh, that means we're going to call out a tech on this podcast. Oh,
I don't know if I like this, but it's okay.
Marry,
Mhm.
counsel, date.
Counsel.
Doesn't matter.
Give them some advice. Okay,
They
I
need
like
some
that.
advice. Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
So I would say Mary would have to say, I'm torn, but I'm gonna go with Notion AI.
Okay.
So it's actually not a financial planning tool.
Yeah,
But
but
what
it's a what do you call it? System, not programmer. You know what I'm trying to say.
It's more or less like a database.
Project management. It's a project
management tool.
That's what I was trying to say. Yeah, there it is.
It's a project management tool. It's super efficient, but more than anything, it's been really helpful to just have a database and a dump for all of our internal processes and systems. So whenever somebody has a question or they need to understand what is the zenith way to do something, knowing that there is this database with questions other people have already asked and how to answer it and how to address things can just help with our efficiency so much. They also just added like a Notion AI chat on there so you can search the whole database and ask it questions. So that's also been a really big time saver because I fundamentally believe if you're going to ask a question more than once, it needs to be in a database and you shouldn't keep asking the same question over and over again. So I would say that one has really been a strong one for me. I would say date. I would go with what's the other one that I'm using right now? Date, I think I would go with Zox AI. So that is the AI note taker that we also use as part of our process. That has really helped. I like the fact that they added agendas also. So if you look at upcoming meetings, it provides an email that you can send to the clients before the meeting, just as a reminder of what their action items were from the last meeting. It also provides an agenda. And they also have an AI chat where you can see, it'll filter through all the notes that have come up with that client. So I can ask, for example, I was creating a cash flow projection for a business owner, and I couldn't remember what she wanted as her target salary for the next 3 years. So I asked the AI instead of reading through every single note I've ever had with her, and it immediately pulled it up and it said, oh, she wanted this for this year, this for next year, just as a quick reminder. So I really like that tool. And then counsel, I got to go Right Capital.
Okay.
Love Right Capital, love them. I just have a few process improvements that I would definitely love to make. They don't use any AI, and I feel like that is an area for improvement. Just
Late adopters.
late
Right,
adopters.
Cal?
I
Come
actually
on.
sent them a
Hey,
note.
e-money is the same thing. I would give them this. I'm on e-money. I'd give them the same advice. So what are we doing here?
Yeah, I feel like it's a missed opportunity. I actually mentioned that to their team as well, but I feel like if there's a way that you could just ask quick questions that are very common instead of having to comb through the help, and you're just getting those immediate responses, especially as you're building out a plan, or just getting some initial thoughts. It would just make advisors more efficient, and of course, just helping us provide even better advice for our clients.
I agree. 100%. 100%. So Chelsea, thank you for giving us your insight on staying human and being only human in this process. As you mentioned, multiple programs that you use that have AI, and even asking for AI on another program that you probably have near 90% usage rate with your clients, I would assume.
Yeah, definitely.
And you're giving them counsel. So that means if
Yeah.
somebody finds a way to do what you're asking, right? Capital, she might be shopping around. Let's move on to some personal pieces.
Mhm,
I'm just going to ask you a few of two random questions, and one will
mhm.
be one that you're a little prepared for.
Okay.
So the first one is, who is an historical figure that you most admire and emulate?
Madam CJ Walker, always.
Mm,
Um,
always. She said always.
always. Yeah. Well, she's my favorite also because she was a businesswoman, an exceptional one. She saw a need in the marketplace. She doubled down on it even when people thought they couldn't see the value in it. And I think she was a true visionary, and she stood on her beliefs and her vision, and it led to some significant success. And I think, first and foremost, when you're a founder or when you're a visionary, you have to be comfortable doing things that people are completely uncomfortable doing,
Amen.
um, and acknowledge that you're going to set the tone for the future. So then, anyone who came behind her, that was like the new bar, and people have significantly passed it since then. But we always need somebody to be the first. So she's always a great reminder and role model of that.
Amen. Amen. I love it. And let's see. What would you consider your most treasured possession?
My most treasured possession. Can it be an animal?
Sure. It's your most treasured possession. Do you own it? I mean, I think we own
Yeah.
animals these days. So yeah.
I mean, I feel bad saying I own an animal, but yes, I have an animal. His name is Archie. He's a Yorkshire Terrier. He is my favorite little guy. I'm allergic to fur, so I always need a hypoallergenic dog, which just so happens to be small dogs. Luckily, he is probably the only Yorkie that doesn't bark a lot, but Archie and I are as thick as thieves. We go together, so
I love it.
definitely.
I love it. I love it. And finally, what is your first memory of money?
My first memory of money is I remember initially, it probably isn't a great memory, but I remember, especially when I used to get my allowance a lot. And I think this also is the reason probably why I'm in finance too, is I used to always get an allowance. And then typically when I would go over, or even, yeah, when I would go over or I'd spend a lot, it would sometimes like lead to like conflicts like in my family and stuff and like the dynamics. So I think at a young age, I realized like money can create problems. Um, so I think in turn, which is why I'm in this career, which is like, oh, I want to figure out a way so that money doesn't have to create problems. So even though you told me you were going to ask that, I was thinking about it, and every memory I could think of was just money creates conflict was kind of like the
Ooh,
synopsis of it.
okay.
So um, I think that's also why I am a financial planner. Sometimes people fall into things for love. I think I probably fell into it a little bit for trauma, but
Yeah.
um, that that always was my North Star of I don't want money to create conflict or problems for other people.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And if there happen to be individuals that are listening to this episode and would like to learn more about you, your practice, or get in touch with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn as Chelsea Ransom Cooper, a very long name, or you can find me on Instagram at chelsea.cfp. I put out video content as well, or you can follow our website, which is Zenith Wealth Partners.
Wonderful. Well, Chelsea, again, thank you for joining us for our second episode of Only Human. Yes, you were number 2. I'm still, and thank you all of our lovely listeners that transferred from the Money Strip podcast and joined us over here. Thank you for listening to all the episodes all over again. I appreciate that. Please do that because it's a new podcast. So subscribe, download, and delete them later, or listen to them again. Why not? Put it on while you're taking a run. Put it on while you're doing that mundane task that AI hasn't figured out how to do for you yet. Put it on while you're on your Peloton. Put it on while you're driving in your car. Just put it on. Let it ride. You might learn a thing or two, and you might find a way to stay only human in the world of AI and technology. So until next time, we will see you soon. Take care.
Hi, I'm back. Did you enjoy being a fly on the wall for that conversation? I know I did. Now remember, don't try everything you learned today. Pick 1 or 2 things you can implement and implement them well. And don't just try something for a week and give up when it's not working. Successful implementation takes time, energy, and repetition. And remember to consult your compliance professionals. We don't want you to get into trouble. Do you have a group of advisors who want to improve their human connection in the AI world? Contact our team to have Yohance speak at your conference or event. Before you go, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, click the bell for notifications.